And welcome back to Off Record On Point podcast. We are back for another episode, and this time we're deep diving into workplace culture with the leading minds in the industry. And this is, as always, to uncover the secrets to both success and happiness. And today I'm delighted that we're joined by two very special guests, Kate Merritt and Laura Braithwaite of recruitment tech company Liberty Hive. And today is all about uncovering the secret to remote working harmony, which is great. It's a topic very close to my heart. I'm Julia Linehan, founder and CEO of The Digital Voice.
And I'm Kasey Long. If you'd like to further explore something in today's episode, check out the description for a list of useful resources to continue your journey.
And as I said, we are joined by the wonderful Kate and Laura of Liberty Hive.
Woohoo!
I've got to
Welcome.
say, it's such a lovely idea, but it's even more a beautiful name. Where did it come from?
Well, so I think it's just worth saying we set up Liberty Hive to keep talent in the media and marketing and martech industry, all of which we're obviously a big in favour of. But the story itself is quite personal to us. So between Laura and I, we have 3 kids each. We love working, but we had absolutely no balance at one point. So Liberty Hive was really came from a place of wanting to give other people that may otherwise leave the industry, like we were on the brink of, I suppose, the opportunity and the freedom to work in a more flexible way. And we set about creating a technology platform which connects people, a bit like ourselves, who wanted that, to great companies. The way we describe it is a bit like a dating site. So you go in and say what you're looking for and you get matched.
Love that.
Perfect
Swipe
role.
right.
But it's evolved, and we do all sorts of contract and permanent work now. But I suppose going back to your question, therefore, why Liberty Hive and why the name, it's quite interesting because it came to us really quickly. It took a day for us, one session. We went straight in, we did our values, brand values, vision, purpose, and then name came out of it. And I suppose the fact that it came to us so quickly was because we were really in our DNA and what we were trying to achieve. And as it suggests, liberty is that whole expression around freedom and working differently. And Hive reflects our community of talent, of which we've got over sort of 1,000 people. So, in simple terms, we like to think of it as them sort of coming to Liberty Hive and then flying off and doing their amazing work and then coming back to the hive at the end.
I love that. It's like freedom and flight, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a wonderful synergy. Love
A
it.
buzz of activity and having everyone be in their own little hives at home.
I see what you did there, Kasey, with your buzz and hives. Yeah.
I love it. Well, since today is all about remote working, we wanted to go straight in. So let's hit it first with, how would both of you define remote versus flexible working?
At Liberty Hive, we like to keep it really simple. So remote is literally defined as exclusively working from home. And actually, we've got candidates that live all over the place. I think the best location is the French Caribbean.
Oh my gosh.
Every time I speak to her, I'm thinking, oh God, she's got it so right. But then you've got flexible working, and it's almost easier for us to define that as something that it's not. So it's everything but the 9 till 5:30 in the office, Monday to Friday.
Mm.
For example, flexible working to someone could be leaving at 3:30 but starting at 8. To someone else, flexible working could be working from home on a Wednesday. And we really see flexibility as an individual thing rather than a definition that suits everyone. And when we speak to candidates, that's what we try and get into their DNA to find out what flexible means to them so that we can then accommodate it.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I think it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, we know why remote is great. I could talk about it all day long as to why it's great for us. I'm curious as to know what is your why? Why is remote and flexible working so great? And then I also want to know why there's so much controversy and backlash against it.
Well, I think in terms of why it's so great, you've got so many reports out there. When you think back to 2019, I think it was only 4.7% of the UK population worked remotely. And obviously, that was forced upon us a year later, and that figure went to 43.5%. But what you've seen is that people are happier with a better work-life balance. And Kate talked about it right at the very beginning. I mean, we don't really get balance, and we still have to remind ourselves about balance even when we're working remotely and sometimes sort of meeting up in the office. So I think the working world has changed and it's here to stay. But I think the controversy comes from, we talk about a backlash. And I think it's because the flexible model, there's no one size fits all. We're still learning, we're still experimenting, we're not getting it all right necessarily, but it is here to stay and people have to sort of get behind it.
Is it?
And if you don't, you look
Yeah.
at employees, what they want is that flexibility. So I think it's the McKinsey report, they're saying flexibility is as important as pay, which is unheard of. That's a real step change. 26% cited lack of flexibility as a reason for leaving their role. So, people want that flexibility, but I think the issue comes from this kind of hybrid model because there is no one size fits all. And that's what causes expectation and reality doesn't always sort of gel. And some people do it better than others.
Why is it that some companies seem to really fight against it? And what is it that you hear most from companies as to why it isn't for them?
When we set up very much for forward thinking companies. So none of our clients have got an issue with the flexible working. But what we are seeing outside of our industry, and maybe not necessarily our clients, people talk about lack of social interaction, isolation. How do you line manage people?
Mm.
But I suppose one of the biggest questions that a lot of companies come back to is, can you truly create the right kind of culture with remote and flexible working? And so people are trying lots of different initiatives. I've heard of there's welcome lunches where everybody gets a voucher, £20 voucher to welcome people onto the team. Drawasaurus on a Thursday afternoon. I love that one.
I love that one. Kasey, note that down.
I know, mental note. That could be a fun idea.
Drawasaurus.
Another company that I think is a brilliant idea is where you're not necessarily seeing people outside of your team. That's a really big issue. So they have what they call mission days. So you get put in a team and you're working on a project that's outside of your day job. And then you have mission days where you just all get together remotely or whatever, but it's outside of your team and you're set a very specific task. So there are lots of things you can do to create great culture. So I would say to the people that say it really isn't possible that, you've got to try stuff and be brave.
I feel very blessed that for 10 years, the Digital Voice has been a remote company. But what happened is it became acceptable during lockdown. Prior to that, it was quite rare to have that model. And now it's become more the norm and more acceptable that we love finding new ways to make it work. I mean, we've got a virtual experience platform with the Digital Voice office that you go into Remo. And you're talking about Drawasaurus because you can use whiteboards, shared whiteboards live in there. You can bring people on and off stage. It's a bit cool 3D backgrounds. We love a huddle cuddle in Slack. We always have we use the tools that are there, but it's also the people. Like we try and encourage everybody to take their lunch break and get outside. Or we do go green. What do we do, Kasey? The 3Gs: go green, go gratitude.
Green, goals, and gratitude. So our 3 Gs at the start of the week.
Yeah, and then something in there has to go green. So it's encouraging people to get out there. In our Slack channels, we have TDV, the Digital Voice Life, and a fitness one, and a book club, and all these different things. There's so many, as well as making sure we're seeing each other in person, even though we're all over the world. So I totally agree. There are so many things, and it's really exciting to see what more you can do. But what I would call out, and I'm going to big companies out there, a big slap on the wrist to them, because it seems that they're actually the least progressive and they're the ones very nervous. They're pushing back against the flexibility the most, which is a strange thing to me. It's a strange thing to do, unless it is just about the real estate, unless it is about that we've got this office space, you need to get bums on seats. Why do you think it is the big companies that are fighting this?
Don't always agree. I mean, I think what it is with bigger companies, it's actually a bigger challenge. I'm not sure that there's a lack of ambition or a lack of intent necessarily to get there. I just don't think they may be coming about it in such a creative way that we've just talked about, and that might be just because it's harder. And we know actually that 50% of UK's biggest companies have no intention of going back to the office full time. Some people are actually like Dell. We were looking at Dell the other day. They've spent almost a decade in sort of building up a really flexible working culture. So there are some big companies that have been doing it well. And actually, in the Dell's example, they've worked out that using technology like Slack, Microsoft Teams, has enabled them to cut down on office space. So they've saved themselves $12 million a year, which is quite a big draw. So I think they're a bit like tankers, aren't they? They want to do it, but there's some resistance in terms of being able to do it quickly. That said, there are some not so positive examples from our industry, as we all know recently, which, Laura, we were discussing.
Well,
oh boy.
The one that really riles me, and that I've been really surprised at, and I just don't get it, is that, I mean, it was a terrible time, pandemic, COVID, we're all working remotely, and then you have all the tech giants came out and said, we're never going back to the office again. You can work wherever you're the most creative, wherever you're the most productive. They were like really forward thinking in some of the things, the initiatives.
Live your life. Yeah.
And they're the first to have done this U-turn. So I was reading that if you want to work remotely at Twitter, you have to get Elon Musk's personal permission.
Oh my gosh.
And that's just ridiculous.
At least you had to get him. You just tweet him.
Yeah. Oh, and then what is it now? He's introduced washing machines at work, so you can stay at work longer.
To be fair, they used to do that, didn't they? Google, make it so amazing there you never wanted to go home.
That's more like home from work, though. That sounds a bit backwards. I think they've got it the wrong way around there.
I did read as well, if you're based, it's your postcode, isn't it, as well? It's like if you live too far away, then that shows you have no intent to ever come in the office, and it's those people that would be on the hit list.
Oh, that's brutal.
And yet you've gone and bought a place and settled your children in, or your family in, or whatever your circumstances are, because you were told we will never go back. Yeah, I completely agree. Bad. That's what I probably was meaning by
devastating.
Those companies that deserve a slap.
I think it's particularly the U-turn.
Yeah.
So making those promises and then going back on it. To Kate's point, that some of the bigger companies do find it hard. They've got challenges, and there is an intent, and they don't necessarily always get it right. But to actually U-turn is quite well.
When you've built your life around your role and what your day-to-day is going to be. And this is a perfect segue, because a lot of what we've talked about so far is from a business perspective, but we are curious to dive into more the people that are living by those rules and that are abiding by the things that companies are putting in place. So do you find that people are very relieved? They have that hallelujah chorus moment when they find you? Is it taking a lot of pressure off them when they find Liberty Hive?
Well, we hope so. I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly we talk to every single candidate that comes onto our platform, and we get to know them. So, we are a tech platform, but we talk to people, and there's nothing like Liberty Hive for people in media. And the way that our technology is set up is, you put into your profile how you want to work. So, and that's part of the matching process. So when people post a role and they said, actually, it is a blend of office and home, or it's 100% remote, those kind of elements are part of the matching process. So it's in our DNA, flexibility from right through.
So I've got to ask then, because I'm really nosy, what's the number one request for flexibility? Is it time of day, week, holidays, pay? What's the number one?
4-day week.
4-day week.
So few people now that want to do the 5-day week. And again, that's just about balance. I think most reasons. There's a few people as well, side hustles. So, they want to do something different on their 5th day. So it's not just, about family or anything like that. And what's interesting at the moment, like you've probably seen, there's a big UK 4-day week trial that's going on with sort of 70 companies. I think it's sort of 3,500 workers. And the initial results were all pretty positive. It's working well, and I think 86% of them are going to keep on with that arrangement.
Well, I'm testimony to the Digital Voices 4.5-day working week. Fridays we shut the office at 1 o'clock. We have really strict rules. Well, on a Friday we have no client calls, and it has to be about all the team. It's internal training. It's strategy work. It's research work. It's planning, prepping, and at 1 o'clock. Everybody go and have that afternoon. And I would say it's so empowering, actually, and the results have been incredible. So I know firsthand, 4.5-day week, spot on for us.
And we say 4.5, but that last half day, because we aren't interacting necessarily all the time with clients, we do get to come together as a team. Teams that don't cross over often do get to catch up or just say hello and, what's going on in the background that you've got of your Zoom call, like what's happening in your life a little bit like you would in the office. So yeah, we are very spoiled with that, and it's nice.
On that note, Julia, I think it was after I saw you, the Digital Leading Ladies event, that you were telling me about your 4.5-day week. And actually, since then, at Liberty Hive, we've done a very similar thing.
Really?
So we launched on Friday afternoons, and it does make a really big difference just knowing that you've got that. So yeah, inspired by you ladies. Thank you.
I'm so pleased, and I'll tell you what as well, for you, Laura, and for you, Kate, as founders as you are, it's just as important for you, same as it was for me, to also give myself that break, because I will work as long as the team is there, and I was struggling to find that balance in my own life, if I'm being honest, and actually it forces me to at 1 o'clock go, actually that's enough. As often as I can. And I luckily started playing golf badly a year ago. But again, it's actually then something to do. It makes you force you get off your phone, off your email, and have that time. So I would say a call out to all founders to think about their own for themselves, because the emails stop pinging, and you haven't got that guilt either. So I'm so pleased that you've done that as well. I'm curious as well, because one of the other things that I think I've got right, I shouldn't big myself up, but we don't pay for a swanky Soho office, so we're able to really look at passing on those cost savings to the team. And I think I hope that the digital voice, the team are certainly paid above market rate. And I'm curious if you're also seeing that there is a salary discrepancy in a positive way for remote work roles versus those offered in the office. Is there?
I don't think so.
Are they getting paid less?
We pass on our cost saving to our clients in the same way. So that's, Liberty Hive is really affordable. I don't know, Kate, do you think people pass on that cost saving?
Brilliant if more companies thought like that. But I don't know that mindset is necessarily there yet, sadly.
I think if you ask us the same question in a year, because basically we're getting all the data, aggregating that data, so we can start to see what average salaries are across different job types and different flexibility, remote working. So over time, we will actually be able to track the average costs. And so ask us that question again in a year.
We'll come back in 12 months and do the same.
You've heard it here, everyone. February 2024. Come back and we'll break down all the data together. Can't wait. While we're talking about salaries as well, we couldn't help but notice you guys recently launched a campaign advocating for salary transparency. We're curious. Tell us a little bit more about it, why it's important, and what effect do you foresee it having on salaries in the industry?
Yeah, it's been a big campaign. We launched it this year. And I suppose it comes from, there's loads of reasons. But I suppose recruitment can be one of the most powerful drivers of inclusion. But quite often it can be one of the greatest blockers. So if you're getting it wrong at the start of the chain, so when you're actually posting that role, then it's really hard to get that equality across your workforce. So but as a tech platform and collecting data as we were just discussing, we saw how one small change therefore could make quite a big difference. And it's around the salary. So, it shouldn't be a guessing game. If you post a salary and you have that pay transparency, so being honest about what the salary is up front, not asking what the salary history question is, you're more likely to get equality in the workforce. Because ultimately, women, and they still are, and underrepresented communities are far less confident about talking about pay. And as a result, they're more likely to accept the salary that they're being offered rather than negotiate, which keeps them on that lower base. So there's that big element. But also, from a practical point of view, we can see through the data we're collecting, it saves massive amount of time and resource. You're much speedier when you're honest about a salary. The response time on our platform is 50% quicker.
Wow.
You're not wasting time getting applicants that aren't quite right. So there's that element. Also, job applicants applications where they've shown salary are 67% more likely to be successful. So you've got a success element and a speed element, which is kind of a bit of a no-brainer. So when we started to realise this, we looked sort of further afield, who else was doing it, and there's loads of studies in the US where 21 states are doing it there. Germany, Iceland, Denmark are all actually made legislation to make sure that salary transparency is legal and has to be done. And where they've done it, so in the States, I think it's like 8% increase in women's pay, 13% for black
That's
employees.
amazing.
Denmark, they've closed the gender pay gap by 13%.
Wow.
And actually, the UK started running a pilot last year. So there's huge reasons for why salary transparency is a good thing.
Benefits everyone.
Yeah, and in our industry, actually, the IPA last year said that sadly, over the last 2 years, the gender pay gap has decreased, or rather increased. So over the last couple of years, so our industry could, we need to start having these conversations about pay. And I think it's been a really big taboo subject. So we're basically saying, let's open that debate. Let's start discussing it, because it can only be a good thing long term.
I tell you what, Kate, and I applaud that massively. And we're coming up to International Women's Day again, right? And last year was an absolute shocker in a way. That campaign that was run on Twitter that was calling out those companies that are first to go, look at us on International Women's Day, well done everyone. And then they called out their gender pay gap. And I personally, I don't understand it. In all my working career, I've never, I've never paid or been paid any differently. I've been paid based on the outputs, and I pay based on the outputs. And at no point does gender. I just don't understand why it even comes into it. And I don't know whether I'm so naive in the attitude of it just isn't common sense to me. And I get so frustrated by this. And I would be interested to see this International Women's Day. I don't know if they'll do that campaign again, but
Oh, I hope.
beware any company out there who's banging the drum going, look at us, aren't we so inclusive? And then they get called out. You've been warned, don't do it.
Yeah.
Just sort your shit out.
Things like salary transparency that you guys are advocating for must massively help that. So applaud your efforts on putting that campaign together.
I'd say to anyone listening, get in touch with the lovely team here, and we've got a salary transparency guide. We can really help. So really happy and wanting to open this whole debate.
I'm so pleased that we wanted you to come on here, because I think it's always saying to companies, look, there is a company there that can support you and help you and allow you to work through this. I've got a question though, because you're two co-founders and you're ambassadors of this flexible working. Do you follow the rules? Do you know, how does it work for you? Do you follow by your own rules of actually saying, I also, you really do live and breathe flexibility, fairness, transparency, all of those things?
I think you've got to have trust, haven't you, when it comes to flexible working, remote working, and we 100% trust each other. If you say you're going to do something, it doesn't matter what hours you do them in, whether you do them at midnight or 8 in the morning, or, whenever suits you. But we know when we say we're going to do something, we'll get it done. We'll call each other out on stuff if we're not, being flexible enough. And I think we get it. We do pretty well, but we are a small team, so it's probably easier for us as well.
Yeah.
But we definitely, when we haven't seen each other for a while, it's like, right, we've got to get into town, meet up, and just like chat through stuff that isn't necessarily day to day, the sort of more strategic stuff. But yeah, I think we live by our own rules, don't we, Kate?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that, again, that comes back to where we started. It was in our sort of DNA and our purpose of setting up Liberty Hive that we wanted to do this, and it, this was really important to us. And I think when that comes from there, you're constantly trying to make sure that therefore you're doing it, because it is so important to get that back.
You're living and breathing those values. I agree.
It's nice that you guys get to meet up. Obviously, being two founders of the company, you want to try to have, 50-50 input, I'm sure, on most decisions. Is it always harmony? Is it always love and rainbows, or is it ever a little bit chaotic? Do you drive each other up the wall sometimes? Like,
do you know what? I think one thing, again, we talked on founders and co-founders, and having a co-founder, a lot of investors say they quite like that, like the co-founder balance. And
interesting.
certainly from our perspective, it does work quite well. We work as well as a duo. We understand the pressure points. I know what Laura's good at that I'd be terrible at, and vice versa. So we can divide it up. But there's a few things, and you get to know each other so well. I probably spend more time with Laura than I do my husband or my family. So, there's going to be moments, but we know quite quickly it's time for a proper real life meeting, because then it just all goes.
as Kate says, we got to know each other so well. We know the signs, we know when to walk away, and we know when to call each other out on stuff. So yeah, no, it's I wouldn't say it's all, calm, and there's some days where we're running around like headless chickens, but we know how to work well together.
Nice. Final question for you guys before we head into the infamous quickfire round
Da,
with
da,
Julia. Bum,
da.
bum, bum. What do most people say that they miss about being in an office? Do you ever get feedback like that? And how can any tips that you might have of how we can build around that to make sure that companies that want to go remote can go ahead and build that culture out?
I think it's always got to be human interaction, and I think we've come to and I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. I think it's since COVID, since lockdown, we sort of value human interaction more than ever before. So I think that's the thing that people say they miss, but then you don't have to miss it, do you? It's just making that time. But we were having that chat before this started, just 5 minutes. We all kind of got to know each other that little bit more, talking about stuff that's nothing to do with work. So I think it's just really important to make that time when you're working remotely or flexibly.
I love that. I love that. Well, we're going to dive into it a little bit more in my quickfire round because this is the
Ooh.
round in which I ask you questions. I'll come to one and then the other of you, but they're really important because it's such a topic close to my heart. I'm almost wanting to give people to walk away from this with a run book of embracing remote, and hopefully this quickfire round will get you to really say why it works and how it can work. So here
Yes.
we go. Okay, Kate, starting with you. What are the must-haves for a company going remote?
So must have has got to be technology that keeps you connected. So whether that's Teams, Zooms, Google Suite, whatever it might be, you've got to have that to start with.
Perfect. Laura, what day of the week do people who work flexibly most often want to drop?
Friday.
Oh,
No
yeah.
surprise. No surprise. I'm surprised it's not Wednesday, actually, because just give you sometimes a break.
Yeah, your Wednesday's a close second.
Oh, is it second? Okay, so Friday first and then Wednesday. Good to know. Kate, name 3 things that flexible working has changed in your life.
So breakfast and supper with my family. Never used to be able to do that. More exercise and definitely more dog walks.
Lovely. I agree. I agree.
All very much well-being.
Well-being, which is so important anyway to mental health and productivities of teams. Laura, what's the perfect remote team building experience?
Well, we've seen a few. There was one we went to that they then sent us a breakfast hamper, and then you all get online and just talk about some of the things that you're facing, as a business, some challenges, and you're eating your croissants at the same time. That was good fun.
Oh.
Another one I heard of, someone, it's called Donuts, and you pair up with someone outside of your team and have these kind of mentoring sessions, which I think sounds good.
Love that. I'm going to come to Kasey. What's our best remote team building experience? Quick fire off the top of your head.
Friday power hours, it has to be.
Oh, see, I was going to say the murder mystery thing where we did.
Oh, like actual activity.
Yeah,
100% murder mystery.
it was Downton Abbey.
Downton Abbey.
Brilliant.
And there was actors who performed. We got really very seriously into the role of inspectors and detectives. It was quite. You had
Close
to be
second
there.
was Christmas and having to play all of Santa's reindeer games and going to the North Pole together.
Yeah, that was good. We did enjoy
We've got a lot to learn from these guys already.
Yeah, I think we need to.
that.
We need to get more creative.
I have to caveat this by saying Casey's secondary role, she has many roles, but one of them is head of idiocy.
Oh,
And it's
love-
to come up with idiotic things. You're brilliant at it, Casey, aren't
It's
you?
my pleasure. It's my pleasure.
Everyone needs a case.
I wear that hat well.
Everyone needs a Casey. Next question. I think I'm coming to you, Kate. What are the 3 software tools that remote working companies absolutely need?
Varies slightly by size, but either a Zoom, a Teams, or a Google Meet, a Google Suite or a Microsoft Teams thing again, so you can share documents. And then we really use ClickUp. I don't know if anyone's
Ooh.
ClickUp.
What's ClickUp?
So ClickUp's a bit like a Trello. It's a project board which you can
Ooh.
use, and we find that super useful. So
I think ours are Slack and Trello
Yeah, we love Trello.
and Remo.
there's so many out there now, aren't there? But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Laura, name drop 3 companies that have really embraced remote working, apart from the Digital Voice, which I'll name drop.
So one is actually in the competitive space, actually, to Liberty Hive. They're called Otter. I don't know if anyone's heard of them. They're doing a big,
Otter.ai. Is
yeah,
that one
they're
on?
doing a big advertising campaign at the moment, and they allow their teams to go and live abroad. They encourage them, Berlin, Florence, go and live abroad for 2 or 3
Wow.
months and work completely remotely. They've just introduced the 9-day fortnight, which I think's really interesting.
Whoa.
And what's in as well, they haven't said this is permanent. They said we're going to trial it and see how it works. So they're taking quite ambitious and big kind of chunky initiatives.
Love
I
that.
don't know if I necessarily admire this company for everything, but Deloitte, I thought it was a smart thing. They said, right, public holidays, they're always associated with a Christian event. Actually, take your public holiday whenever it suits you, which I thought was quite smart.
Oh, nice.
And I'd not heard of anyone doing that before. And then Dell Cates referenced, I think, saving that 12 million and really embracing flexible working has to be a smart move.
I'll tell you what, actually, on those ones, I'm going to add in, I'm going to put one in the mix, which is impact.com. They are a client of ours. What they've done is make global holiday, because everyone's spread out all over the world. What ends up happening is when US have a bank holiday, the UK is working and fills their inbox and vice versa. So they've made 4 or 5 global holidays a year for the whole company globally. And I think that is incredible because everybody then switches off. So well done out to them
Wow.
for
That's
doing
really
that.
cool.
Coming to you, Kate, who are 3 people in your life who have influenced you?
Having worked on the Chanel account, I have to say Gabrielle Chanel, and if you can see my background, there's a slight influence there because she is probably one of the earliest female rule breakers, disruptors. I mean, she literally liberated women from corsets and sort of gave them freedom of movement and trousers and made black fashionable and introduced all that dress and made a perfume that was called Number 5, which, as you know, they all sort of had floral names. So she really, at the time, was a massive,
I love that.
female revolutionist. And I think she's just, broke so many rules, which was great.
So cool.
Whitney Hurd, I don't know if it's a name you're familiar with, but she is an American entrepreneur. She's super young, and she started Bumble. And the reason she's an interesting one is because obviously it's that online dating site. And we sort of said at the beginning, Liberty Hive works a bit like a dating site in terms of matching you. So, what she did with Bumble, I think she launched it when she was 25 years old.
Wow.
She was, she did actually was one of the co-founders of Tinder even before she launched this. So in her 20s, she's a Forbes under 30, and she was one of the first self-made billionaires when she took Bumble public, and she was 31 at the time. So
that's incredible, isn't it?
And then I suppose the third one is just family. Like, they continue to inspire me and encourage me. And my husband has his own business, and I suppose years of just watching him do his technology, I was like, right. And he continues to inspire me in terms of what I do as well.
Thank you, Kate. That's amazing. And last question to you, Laura. What do you say to the haters of remote working? Give it to them.
Shut them down.
Can I say that we don't want to even have the conversation with them? I mean, I think the haters. It's a bit like Brexit, isn't it? And it can get quite emotive. Are you a Remainer? Are you a Leaver?
Yeah.
But no, we don't want to talk to the haters.
Bye, haters.
See ya.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.
Wouldn't want to be perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. That is all for this episode of Off Record on Point. What a fantastic session with so many great takeaways for anyone looking to trial or test out some fun remote or flexible working processes. For those of you listening, you can continue to explore the topic with our list of resources and find out where to keep up with Kate and Laura in the description or on our website, thedigitalvoice.co.uk.
And that just leaves me to say a big thank you, Kate. Thank you, Laura from Liberty Hive. You've been amazing.
No, thank you very much for having us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lovely to chat with you both.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Off Record On Point, the Digital Voice podcast unzipped. I'm Julia Linehan.
And I'm Kasey Long. Enjoy the conversation? Reach out and let us know by rating and reviewing on your favorite podcast platform. And be sure to follow to never miss an episode.
You can stay connected with us at thedigitalvoice.co.uk and across all social platforms. Just look out for The Digital Voice.
Join us again next time for another undercover industry deep dive. All off record, all on point.